How's it going, guys? James96 here, back with a brand new episode of a brand new series. Yesterday, guys, we're starting my brand new series, Map Mechanics, where I show you map mechanics which I've been working on in various maps and projects that I've been doing recently. So, let's get started with week one. This week, we are taking a look at the temple from my map, Search for Steve and the Curse of the Desert Temple. It's got a few pretty awesome map mechanics in it, which we're going to break down today. We're going to be showing how certain mechanics work within the game, how the game mode changes, and stuff like that. Obviously, this map, if you don't know, is my first ever map that I made. It's got about 27,000 downloads at the moment, which is pretty successful for a first map. So let's break it down and see the mechanics behind the temple. Okay, guys, so full disclaimer before we start, this episode will contain a few spoilers from the Search for Steve map, but don't worry, if you're up to date with my map playthrough, then there won't be any fresh spoilers. It only goes as far as that. So if you haven't caught up with that, then you should do. But anyway, let's get started. So, as you can see, this is the map which you download, but I've hollowed out a lot of stuff and I've kind of broken some stuff down. This is just to allow us to focus on what is going on and be able to have a better peek inside and make it a bit easier to have a look at. But it is the exact same world that you get in real life, in the actual download. So first thing we should mention is that this is all of the command blocks which we're going to be looking at today. As you can see, it's very compact, which I'm very proud of. It actually fits in a 7 wide area and stays within the width of the temple, which I think is really useful, especially in this map because it's very low down to the ground. If we go over here, can we see? Not the best spot to look at. Let's look over here. So as you can see, generally on the map, the lower surface areas go right down to bedrock, so there's not a lot of space to hide command blocks and such like. So the way I decided to do it was to hide it underneath the temple, which I think is a pretty cool little way of doing it, and as you can see, I've kept it compact enough that it works out okay. But everything is under here, and it all works off this main clock here, which as you can see is a hopper clock which has 6 hoppers, which means that it reduces lag quite a bit because all of these black stained clay timers here used to be on rapid clocks, but I reduced them down onto only triggering once every 6 hoppers, which basically means that it saves on lag a lot. And as you can see, this comparator here will flash every so often, which will trigger one of these lines to flash with redstone for a second and then be changed back to black stained clay. So that is basically what the setup is down there. Now, what we're going to be looking at today is we're going to be looking at how when we enter the temple, our game mode goes from 0 to 3 and then back to 0 outside, and we are going to be looking at the translator, which if you hold it, it translates the gibberish that you see in front of you into a understandable language. We're going to be looking at how stuff will change once we fill all the items and how the items affect the world border, and we will be looking at how the Bones of the Fallen allows us access to secret areas. So, quite a lot to get through for the first episode, so let's get started. Firstly, we're going to look at the translator, which as I just mentioned, when you hold it up, it will translate items and explain what they are. A very simple module, and I should disclaim quickly that these modules here are just a breakdown of the stuff in there. They don't actually function on their own because I didn't have time to adjust all the command blocks. I just simply cloned across each individual thing to give you reference to what you're looking at when you're looking in there. For example, there would normally be a rapid clock here which links up to this rapid clock here. So hopefully that all makes sense. But anyway, we're going to be looking at the translator first, which is this module right here. And all this does is it's a rapid clock here, which is a test for command. And what that is doing is it's testing for any player with their selected item. So the item they're holding being a Minecraft sign, which has the display name of translator. Now, what that means is, for example, if you do lose your translator, you can actually grab an anvil and you can grab a sign. And you can actually name a sign of translator, and it will actually act as a translator just as a normal translator would. So you'll see now if I hold this up, it works still exactly the same as before, because all it's doing is testing for a named item with the name of translator. That is particularly useful, I felt, because it's quite easy to lose the translator, but it's very important to the plot of the story to be able to know what items you need to get. So that's a nice little trick. Anyway, let's have a look at what this system does. So what it will do is it will test for if you're holding the translator item, and if you are, then it will light up this comparator here. Now once it does that, it will light up all of this redstone, activate all of these, which will then turn off these redstone torches and turn these ones on. Now these are actually very simple. The only reason that there's so many command blocks is you need a command block for every sign that you are changing in the world. So we've got one for sapling, fish, water bucket, slime block, obsidian, and so on. I won't read them all out because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone unnecessarily. But what you are looking at here is we've got one command which replaces the sign on the wall at the correct location with just the unknown language, and the other one adds the sapling text underneath in a bold dark red color. And all that happens is when you're holding the translator, it turns this redstone torch off, which turns this redstone torch on, which changes the sign to having the dark red color and having the translation. And when you let go of the translator, it will turn this redstone torch off, turn this one back on, and it will be replaced. So I can show that in action here. So holding the translator, this redstone torch turns off, this one turns on, and it sets the block to holding sapling. But if I unselect it, redstone torch turns on and it sets the block to sign with just the gibberish. So hopefully that made sense, and that's quite a simple module. So let's move on. Next thing we'll look at is another simple module, which is the changing of game modes, like I mentioned at the start. It tests for a player in game mode 0, and as you can see, at the moment we can break a block, we step in here and we can't break a block. This one is actually a really simple module. All it does, and the purpose of it, first of all, is to protect the temple, because I don't want people just being able to dig down. Obviously, if they were able to dig down, they'd go straight into the command block area, which we don't want. That could end disastrously. And also, you just don't want them breaking something like that. So it's quite important to my maps, I feel, in general, is to have that feature. And you can see I've also got barrier blocks around the edge to stop people digging in from the top, because basically I want to force people to come in through this entrance so that I can easily test for when they enter and change their game mode accordingly. This one is actually a really simple command. All we've got here is a rapid clock in the center here. We've got a command which changes someone to game mode 0 if any player to game mode 0 if they're at these coordinates and they're already in game mode 2. So if they're in adventure mode and we want to change them back, and we've given that a range of 1, and then this one just does the opposite. It changes someone to game mode 2, any player that's standing at these coordinates in a range of 1 and in game mode 0. That means that obviously when I was debugging, it was a bit easier to be able to fly through and have no problems. But for example, if I got rid of this game mode, if I change this M to M equals 1, that means that the mode it's testing for is game mode 1. Then as I fly through here, it will actually change my game mode, as you see. Oh, maybe on the way back out. Aha, oh, of course, because this isn't actually a rapid pulsing clock. But if I did it to the clock over here, just to prove my point, this is far tougher to explain than I thought. There we go. So now we've changed the actual rapid clock to game mode 1. And now, as you can see, yeah, my game mode has changed. So hopefully that explains that feature, and I should probably change that back before it gives us grief with the rest of our demonstration. So I believe it was game mode 2 for this one. Okay. But again, a nice simple little function which will help you in your map if you want to have an area protected. Just funnel them into one area, or you can expand the range of this command. So I've got it at a range of 1, but if you want it over a large area, just set it to a range of 10, 100, whatever, and it will still work just the same. Now, the next thing that we'll look at is the Bones of the Fallen. It's the next one across. So just a recap, the Bones of the Fallen, if you hold it up, it will allow you access to a secret area underneath the temple. which if we go down, you'll see is the names of all of my first 100 subscribers, which was a nice little feature because if you don't know, this map was a 100 subscriber special. Now, the way the Bones of the Fallen works is quite simple. You've got a command here, which, same as the translator, is just testing any player for holding an item, which is a bone, with the name Bones of the Fallen. So again, if you know this fact, then you can just make yourself a Bones of the Fallen using an anvil. But obviously it's a lot more fun to actually find the Bones of the Fallen. And how this one works is, obviously you've got 2 sets of iron bars, one on each side, which both need to be cleared to be able to gain access from either side. So it means 2 command blocks for each one because it's 2 fill commands. But basically it works exactly the same as how this works here. We've got a redstone torch, which when you're holding the Bones of the Fallen, this will activate, which will turn this redstone torch and turn this one on, which is just filling things to air. And when you're not holding the Bones of the Fallen, it fills things back to iron bars. So let's have a look at that from underneath. If I can find the module, I believe it's just over here. There we go. So as you can see, at the moment this redstone torch is off. When I hold the Bones of the Fallen, it will turn this redstone torch on, which will set it to air, and when I let go, it will unactivate that comparator and it will turn it back to a redstone torch. Hopefully that all makes sense so far. Please let me know in the comments if I'm rushing through anything a bit too much, but hopefully that explains everything. I'm going to take a quick break and I'll be back with the next one. Okay guys, so we're making pretty good time with this episode so far. I will take this opportunity to mention, if you want to see these modules in more detail, then make sure you download the map and have a look for yourself. It'll be a lot easier for you to take a look inside and see exactly how everything's linking together, such as how the clocks are linked to everything and such like. And also, of course, if you want to see any of these in any more detail, then let me know down in the comments below. If you've got any questions, again, down in the comments below. Normally in future episodes for more complicated modules I will do them in individual episodes, but like I said, a lot of this is very short and simple little command modules which seemed like a good idea to group together under the term of the temple, because that's where they are. But let me know what you think in the comments down below and leave a like if you enjoyed. But anyway, enough plugging myself, let's continue on. And the thing we're going to be looking at next is replacing items. So when we change someone from game mode 0 into game mode 3, that can pose some problems, because you'll see if someone decides for some reason to break the item frame now, they can't place it until a little module there does something which allows it to be placed. So let me do that in slow motion so we can see what's going on there. So item frame can't be placed, item then changes, it has a broken texture which unfortunately I can't do anything about. That's just a Minecraft bug of some description, I think. If you know how to fix it, then let me know. But it gives us an item frame which can be placed on sandstone, because obviously in adventure mode certain items can't be placed on certain blocks, and item frames can't be placed on anything unless you give someone an item which can be placed on something. So you can see I can now place it here, and then I can pick it up, and once it changes again I can place it back where it should be. Basically means that if someone breaks the map, then they don't have to go into game mode 1 to fix it, they can just place it back again. Because you know what people are like, they tend to just break things they're not supposed to. That's just one of those measures, again, with like the game mode 3 in general, just to stop people breaking things they really shouldn't be breaking, because people tend to be silly sometimes. One more thing I will mention is that if you place it and break it in quick succession, you'll find that it won't change. That's just because a comparator hasn't updated quick enough. But if you just drop it on the floor, so there's no longer an item frame in your inventory, and then pick it back up, you'll see it changes and you can place it down again. But this is quite a simple module, so we're going to check it out. And I'm actually going to show you, these two are exactly the same, but I'm going to show you on this one because this one isn't a spoiler, it just shows what we just saw. So what this does is it tests for any player in their inventory if they have an item frame, and if they do, it's going to clear the item frame from their inventory, and then it's going to give them an item frame which can be placed on sandstone. And what that means is that it can obviously be placed on sandstone, and it's literally that simple. It's a very short and sweet module. So let's move on from that one onto the final module which we're going to be taking a look at today, which is the most complicated. It's the item frame setup. It's really not that bad, it just looks a bit worse than it actually is. But let's get started and break it down into its individual sections. So First thing to look at here is we've got this quick clock down the bottom here, or this clock down the bottom here, which as you saw earlier, we'll just quickly fly over, pulses every 6 hoppers with redstone block and then back. But none of this is actually, doing anything in this one. And all we've got here is this is the thing that changes it back. If that wasn't made clear earlier, the hopper command just fills these blocks with redstone, and then it will obviously trigger this one, which then fills it all back with black stained clay. Okay, cool. So what we've then got here is all of the item frames, and the reason this looks bad is that each individual item frame needs a set amount of command blocks to deal with it effectively. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 command blocks per item frame, which is why it seems worse than it actually is. So we only really need to break down these 4 to have a look at what's going on. So the first thing we're looking at is we're testing for any entity of type equals item frame. So we're testing for an item frame at the place where the item frame should be, and also facing in the right direction. That kind of was an important thing for me, because I didn't want someone to break the item frame, place it in the wrong direction, and then put the item frame in and still be allowed for that to count, because it's like, it doesn't look as good, and they can just place it the right way. And then it's specifying the item it wants to see in the item frame. So for this one, it's sapling, so it's testing for an item in an item frame at this position facing this direction with a specific item in it. If that matches, it will turn on this comparator here, which will then trigger a sequence, which I'll show you now. So the things to look out for is that the item frame count on the right here, which is our dummy scoreboard, will go up by 1. That's this one here, the scoreboard. A barrier block will be placed and a lantern will turn on. So let's actually go for the sapling here. And you'll see just down the bottom here as well, it's the exact same thing, sapling on the end, so we'll be able to properly see what's going on afterwards. So you'll see if I put a sapling in here, light turns on, a barrier block gets placed here. Now the reason I did that is so that when you're in game mode 2, you can't then break off the sapling afterwards. I want items which you sacrifice to be sacrificed. So I deliberately made it so that wasn't possible, and a redstone lamp goes in as an indication as to the fact that you've submitted an item basically to the temple. Now if we go back into game mode 1 here, we can have a look at what happened, and also you'll see the dummy count for the item frame went up by 1, and that's all summarized down the bottom here. So this is now true, which means that it powers this block, which powers these 2 command blocks, which place a barrier and turn on the lantern. Now it doesn't actually place a lantern. What it does, and I'll show you quickly, is it just sets a block behind. So if I break the barrier, break the redstone torch, it sets this block here to a redstone block, which allows for the lantern to be powered. So that's how that works. And then it also sets scoreboard add dummy item frame count 1. Now the reason it's add item frame count 1 rather than set is because I wanted the items to be able to be placed in any order. I didn't want them to have to be, you have to do this one, then you have to do this one. I want it to be an open world survival kind of feel. So you've got to be able to take on the challenges in the order you want to, and that's how you get around that. And then obviously on top of that, when you place items, you'll see that the world border expands. So at the moment it's about this distance away. If I place another item in now, let's go for, can't actually remember which items are where. Let's go for a fish. Not the next item you're likely to come across really, but if I place a fish in there, you'll see that the world border, if we can get to it, is expanding. So you can see it's retracting away, and that works because of what we've got on the top here. So on the top we've got another rapid, or not rapid, but another pulsing clock, and again a fill command which changes it back to black stained clay. And what we've got here is it's testing the item frame count. So all it's doing is it's testing if the dummy score is within a certain range, so 1 of 1 here, 2 of 2 here, 3 of 3 here, and it's just testing each individual one. And if it finds out that it is right, then it will fire one of these individual command blocks here. So you'll see the first one sets the world border to 175 after 15 seconds, then 250 after 15 seconds, then 350, then 460. So you can see that that is how I expand the world border depending on how many items you've submitted. And that's what allows it to be in whatever order, because if you did it for testing for X item in the item frame and then expanding the world border based on that, then you wouldn't be able to have as much freedom in what order you place them. So I use a dummy scoreboard to get around that. And then you'll see down the end here when we get to 9, there's actually something a bit more special, which I'll show you now quickly just to wrap up. So if we get all of these items in place, so we need a water bucket, which we'll place here. We need a block of slime, which we'll place here. We need, sorry, I'm having to go through this individually, didn't have this part prepared, forgot that I was going to show this part off at the end here, but obsidian there, sponge, ender pearl, sponge, ender pearl, okay, so like so, and then we've got an egg going in this slot here. And then finally, the last item of the original list is a clock. So when we place the clock in, something special is going to happen. You're actually going to see, and just give me 2 seconds and I'll demonstrate it. Sorry about that, a little bit of frame lag there, don't know what that was about. But basically what we're going to see is when we put the last item in, it's going to do a sequence of events here. So when we put it in, it's going to cause, oh, give it a second. Is this definitely the last one? Or, oh, there we go. It's because it's on a clock, so sometimes it takes longer than other times. But as you can see, it took out the ceiling, it filled these blocks in here and placed ladders so that you can get up and see yet more items which need to be filled in, which again work on the same system. I'll just demonstrate with one. So if we put an emerald in this one here, you'll see again it lights up and places a barrow block in place, and it's the same system. But how this bit works, and we'll be quick here because we're already getting quite long and lengthy for our first episode here, but how it works is when you hit the magical number 9, which is when you've got 9 items filled in, it triggers this one which sets the world border. You've got one which fills the roof with air, and then you'll see it follows on into some more which fills the ladders in and fills ladders in on the other side. It's very simple how it works. Really simple, to be honest, as to how that works. And then again, you've got something for when you fill in all of the ones at the top and some more stuff. But anyway, that is all we've got time for this episode, guys, of the Map Mechanics series. Let me know what you thought of it. It's obviously my first episode of it. I don't know if the general series is going to be this long. I'm probably anticipating it being a lot shorter episodes in general, but I wanted to start with a longer episode to kind of give you an idea of the kind of stuff which I'm going to be showing off in these episodes. But anyway, I look forward to reading your comments. Let me know what you think down below. If you enjoyed the episode, then please do leave a like, and if you haven't already, then please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time, guys. Bye bye.